Here we go again, children. I'm going to try to show you how to make a pie crust, or at least talk you through it. I'm working on my assimilating my shortening, sugar, and salt into my flour. I'm making a double batch, so I've got 1.5 cups of shortening, butter flavored Crisco in the little sticks because it makes it easy for an old head to figure out. I've got about a tablespoon of sugar, the raw organic sugar that I have added to this, and a couple of teaspoons of salt. 4 cups of flour. I'm mixing this in so that it'll get all assimilated, and I'll try not to dump it on the countertop. I need to figure out how to get my little phone, which I'm using, by the way. It's an iPhone special here. I need to find a way to get that up on a little tripod or something. That'll make it a little easier, but you can see what I'm doing to an extent. I want to clean my little pastry cutter a little bit and keep that going. Still working on that. And it's starting to look pretty darn good. Crumbly. Crumbly, crumbly, crumbly. And I think it's about where I want it to be. I don't want to have to take it too far, because that would be too much like work. And as my uncle used to say, I'm not afraid of work. I'll lay right down beside it and go to sleep. Okay, to that I'm going to add about 12 tablespoons of water, 6 to each batch, so I'm doing a double batch. Double batch, which would make, a single batch would make about 2 crusts. That would be 1 top and bottom, or 2 single crusts. So as I'm doubling that, I'm making it with 4, and I'm trying to put about 6 to 12 tablespoons of ice water in there. I'm going to mix it up with my favorite little mixing wooden mixing spoon. I'll work that in and see how it's going. To that amount, depends on your humidity. It depends on a lot of things, how much water you want to incorporate into your pastry crust. Now this is basic pastry crust. This is not a pâté sucré, which I tried to make a little tutorial on once before, and it came out just as goofy as the first one I did this evening. So I'm preparing pies for Thanksgiving tomorrow at my son's, and they have requested blueberry pie and custard pie, which is not your normal fare for Thanksgiving, but they're not normal. But anyway, need a little more because it's not going to come together like I want it to. So I'm going to add a little more of the ice water. And actually, this is a good glass for it, because if it doesn't go well, then I just put something else. Highball it up. Okay, so I'm going to be mixing this and just checking to make sure my little thing is going. I'm going to be mixing this up by hand now. I've gone as far as I can with my little business there, and I'm going to just mix, 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 womp, 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 just like you did when you were a kid. Well, I was a kid once, really. It was a very long time ago. And back then I would play in the mud, and I had a sandbox that my papa, my grandfather, made for me, and that was my thing, was playing in the sandbox and making whatever I thought it was I was making at the time. Okay, this is not going to come together like I want it to, so we're just going to dump a little more. You sound like somebody who's like, oh, this is not enough alcohol. Let's just dump a little more. Anyway, that was my thing, was making mud pies. Well, this is basically the same concept, and if you never made a mud pie in your life, you never lived. And I've made a few. So I'm going to mix that together till it comes together into a big conglomeration of a ball. And then I'm going to try to get all of the bit off of the bottom. Don't want to work it too much, don't want to work it too little. But I think I'm to the point now where I can squeeze the bejeebers out of it and get it to come into a ball. And I've been making pies for many, many years because I've been around for many, many years. I've been making pies, cookies, cakes. I did wedding cakes. I've done things that were for weddings. I catered. I would make things to order for Christmas. Thinking seriously about maybe doing some Christmas cookies and possibly selling some Christmas cookie trays. Okay, now we have a big ball of dough. A big ball of dough. I'm going to swish it around and get all of that up. Get my junk out of the way. Need that. Throw that in there. Get my hands cleaned off. Because I will have to wash my hands at least 12 million times. A cook's best friend is clean hands. I think that's what Ina says. I'm pretty sure she would be right. She would know. I know that I work food long enough to know that you need to have clean hands. Okay, dokie. Now I'm going to be putting my flour on my little top here, a little bit of it to roll my dough out. And I suppose if I don't move this pan, you'll never know what I did. So I'm going to take and divide my dough into two halves, and then again, so I have quarters of dough. Play with it a little more, roll it around, play with it a little more, roll it around, work with it. Flour out because I want to incorporate some flour into it. Working that around, making sure I've got not too much flour. That's not a good color. And then I'm going to work it around. I was watching a video today on lefse, which is a Norwegian bread. And they did all kinds of working around with the dough that they made, which was made with potatoes, which was a very long drawn-out process, and I see why they didn't do it very often. But I'm sure somewhere in the northern parts of the United States, maybe around Freeport or somewhere up north around Rockford or in Wisconsin, they have got shops that sell lefse, which I think would be a way better way to get that. Okay, so I'm working, and it's not going to be perfect because I don't even try for perfect. You try for perfection, you fall short. Aim high, fall low, you're supposed to whatever. I don't know. I do the best I can. I could make it perfectly round, I suppose, if I really tried, but I didn't really try. I don't want my dough to be too thick. I don't want it to be too thin, because then it's hard to move. So I'm going to work around and get a little more underneath there so it'll come out a little farther. Get it out far enough. And I think this first one is going to go into the pan. Or a pan, or whatever pan I'm using. I'm going to use a real pan for that one. I've got a lot of disposable pans that have come with things. I like to buy the Frozen Marie calendars because I don't have to make them and stuff's good. So there goes crust number 1. And these are going to be open. Or is it? No, I think this is going to be the blueberry. So I'm going to have to cut it. You don't want to stretch your pie dough. I'm going to push down a little bit and get the bubbles out so that, you know, it doesn't shrink. But if you stretch it when you're putting it in, it will also shrink. And I think I got rid of my knife I was using to cut around. Ooh. So I'm going to have to find another one. And yes, I have the fancy one, but I'm just going to do what Grandma did, because I am Grandma. Do what the hen do what you can do. And I am the old hen. Okay, so that worked out real well. That's one. I have to make the guts for the pie, the filling, shortly. But I'm going to go ahead and roll out the rest of the open crust, and then I'll roll out the top for that one. I'm going to set him over here out of the way. That's from supper. So anyway, I will be back with the filling.